All right, so let's discuss this final module in empowerment technologies, which is what we call the introduction to multimedia and ICT. So this is one of the new topic that we propose to be included as part of your subject, multimedia and information and communications technology. Because, well, as you can see, as of the moment, since we are talking about ICT since we've been talking about ICT since the module 1, it's very important for you how to relate these things na ginagamit natin, these multimedia systems na ginagamit natin into the world of communications technology. So that's why introduce ko sa inyo ang tinatawag natin na multimedia. Now, when we say multimedia, this is not the first time hearing this. I know most of you heard this, especially when you are in your elementary and secondary, di ba? So, multimedia, it's a combination of two words, multi, okay, meaning it's plural or more than one. And media, it's the way on how you communicate. It's a medium of communication. So, multimedia is a combination of content forms such as text, animation, audio, videos, still images, and interactivity. So, again, when we try to define multimedia, this is actually the most basic definition of multimedia. It's actually the presentation of computer application incorporating media elements such as text, graphics, animations, audio, and video. Okay? Now, in terms of the media types, we have four classification na kailangan nating makita. Number one is what we call the captured media. So, we have here a sample uh, graph in which visualize the following classifications. So when we say captured media, it refers to information types captured from the real world. So we have here photo. Yan, mga photo. And uh, captured media are actually discrete or space-based lang siya. Photos. Now, when we say synthesized media, it refers to the information types synthesized by the computers. So this time, meron ng involvement ang mga computers such as ito, texts and graphics and computer animation synthesized. Yan. It's still space-based pero this time using a particular device which is a computer. Discrete media naman refers to media involving space dimension only lang. So meron tayo ditong text and the graphics itself. Continuous classification, on the other hand, dito, part na to, it refers to the time-based media. So, for example, we have sounds, yan, time-based. We have moving images, and animation. So, those are the four classification of media types. Now, according to Dr. Albert Marabian, a specialist in interpersonal communication in University of California, UC, yan, it he says that people only recall 20% of what they see. Take note, 20% lang ang nare-recall, 40% of what they see and hear. And surprisingly, majority of that, 70% of what they see, hear, and do ang nakikita natin. Kaya wag na kayong magtaka kasi kapag nagdi-discuss ang teacher nyo na gumagamit ng mga videos, 'di ba, ng mga multimedia elements, mas nagiging ano 'yan, mas madali niyo ma-recall. Mas in terms of retention, mas madali niyo siyang matandaan. Tama? So, ganun din kapag ang tawag dito, kapag nagbabasa tayo ng books, somehow some people really prefer seeing and hearing the books. Yun nga, yung mga audio podcast na tinatawag natin. Di ba? Multimedia allows for seeing, hearing, and doing, which is considered as multi-sensory system. Now, the characteristics of multimedia system are the following. Paano nga ba natin masasabi na multimedia system ang isang multimedia? They must be computer controlled, of course, and users able to view, hear, and see using a PC. They are integrated, at least one discrete and one continuous media combined for information presentation and sharing. Another is that the information they handle must be represented digitally. So it can consist of various form of media, and the interface to the final user may permit interactivity. So those are the different characteristics. Hindi naman dapat isa lang or lahat makita. For as long as merong isa na ma-meet yung characteristic na yun, that is considered as multimedia system. Okay, so what we are doing here in our class, which is discussing using Canvas as a platform, yan, Big Blue Button as a way to conduct conferences, yan, OBS as a form of screen recording, ito, Canvas as a form of presenting the modules is alone considered as multimedia system. Okay? Now, since I already introduced you multimedia system, let's talk about the first. Okay? The first content form na meron tayo, which is text. Na nagkaroon na tayo ng introduction to typography, if you can still remember the discussion of graphic design before. So, text, basically, it's an obvious thing, di ba? It's the simplest data types and requires the least amount of storage. Text. Everything is text. Ito nakikita nyo, it's text. And text in the form of words, sentences, and paragraphs is used to communicate thoughts, ideas, and facts in daily life. Well, in everyday life kasi talagang ang text, laging nakikita yan. Sa chat pa lang ng mga messenger, 'di ba? Sa mga modules pa lang, nakikita niya at nakikita yan. Kaya nga, napaka significant ng role ng text as a as a multimedia. Text may not be as visually exciting as some of the other media types, but it often conveys essential and precise information. So, multimedia applications depend on text for many things, including, of course, the titles, delivering information in form of multiple sentences, the labels for pictures, and the instructions for operating a particular application. Now, maybe you're wondering, is there even a difference between fonts and typefaces? There is actually a big difference on that one, in which I think lahat tayo, even me, nalilito pa rin kasi minsan namamali ako ng banggit. Kasi nasanay tayo as a Filipino na font ang tawag natin. Well, basically, font is a collection of characters of different sizes. Take note ha, and styles of a typeface. Example, itong Arial 18 point volt. Yan. Font is the variation of weights of a typeface. Take note. Pero pag sinabi pala nating typeface, okay, it's the graphic representation or the shape of the characters. A typeface is a family of related fonts. Yun pala yun. Okay? Again, pag sinabi nating font, basically, it's only the variation. Yan, meron kang size dito, meron kang, pwede mo sabihin bold, underline, italics, italic, yung mga ganyan. Yun pala ang font na tinatawag. Pero pag sinabi nating typeface, itong mga to, Roboto, Gotham, Times New Roman, Courier New, yung mga ganon, typeface pala ang tawag doon. So even me, nalilito ako dyan paminsan-minsan. In which I think talagang na-admit ko. So fonts and typefaces. Okay, kasi Pilipino tayo eh. Font ang nasanay natin eh. Pero from now on, let's call them as typefaces. So kapag tinanong kayo, what typeface did you use? Ayan, sasabihin mo, I used Courier New. Okay? So, what font did you use? I used Courier New 12 size with, uh, I mean, Courier New 12 size in bold. Mga ganyan. So, that's fonts and typeface. Now, especially kapag gagawa na kayo ng mga presentation nyo, napaka-importante po na mag-matter ang pag-choose ng fonts niyo. So these are the different guidelines of choosing fonts. For small types, do not use decorative fonts. Again, do not use them, especially in presentation. Use as few typefaces as possible, but you can vary the size using italic or bold. So for example, ito, di ba? So naka-bold yan, tapos pagka mga important information I would like to emphasize, naka-bold sila. Also, adjust the leading. yan, or line spacing, where you have a lot of text for easier reading. You also need to vary the size, yan, use bold or emphasize the text. You also adjust the spacing between letters so that the spacing feels right. Ito, Google Docs actually provide an automatic kerning adjusting, which is good. You also need to surround the headlines with white space. When we say headlines, ito yung mga titles. So, halimbawa ito, Psychology Behind Type Choices. Diba? So, you have to surround them with white space, meaning itong mga to. So, naka-center align siya, tapos naka-surround ang white space sa kanya. Distinguish text links with colors and underlining. Use drop caps and initial caps. Okay, so that's only the introduction to text. Next, we have here an introduction to graphics and images. Now, when we say image, okay, it's a spatial representation of an object or a scene. Say for example, image of a person, place, or object. Pero pag sinabi natin graphic, it's a broader and general definition which now includes the following: pictures, drawings, clip arts, buttons, charts, backgrounds, and icon. So I hope you are getting the difference between them. Basically, again, image, spatial representation. So, pinicturean mo yung isang tao. That's an image. Diba? Pag sinabi natin graphic, broader, mas broad. Okay? Now, let's try to differentiate naman the meaning of pictures and graphics. Pictures are found in the world which is external to the computers. So, ito yung mga nakikita lang natin na nakasave sa PC natin. Pero when we say graphics, images are the two-dimensional digital representations of pictures found in computers. Ito yung mga, yan, it actually attempts to duplicate the look and feel of a picture. A graphic is a realistic version of the original picture, and it's dependent on the quality and capabilities of the computer and the artist's ability to use the software. So this time, when we say pictures, again, for example, nagpicture ka, that's considered as a picture. Tapos ilagay mo sa computer, sa Photoshop, picture yon. Ngayon, when you're trying to edit that, or if you're trying to convert that picture as an artwork, for example, like a vexel art, vector art, something like that, magiging graphic na siya. Okay? So, I hope you understood the definition or the difference between pictures and graphics. Now, let's move on to these, okay, important information that we need to know in terms of the graphics and images. Number one is resolution. There are three types of resolution measuring the aspects of the quality, detail, and size of an image. Dito kasi tayo rin madalas malito, especially you as a student, because we commonly, they call this one, use the term resolution in a wrong way. Now, we have here image, display, and color resolution. Ang pag sinabi nating image resolution, it's associated with an image degree of detail or quality. Usually, they are measured in pixel dimension of an overall image. Now, when I say pixel, this is actually the dot sa isang image. So, kung nakikita nyo, itong 1 by 1 na tinatawag dito, 1 pixel by 1 pixel, meaning, this alone is a simple or is a single dot sa image na yun. Okay? For example, 100 times 100 pixels has a lot or has a total of 10,000 pixels. So therefore, yan, the more pixels that you have, the higher the image resolution will be. Take note on that. So, especially when you are downloading some images from Google. Now, let me show you. Ano ibig ko sabihin yan? This is also very important knowledge or very important tool na kailangan nating alamin kapag nagda-download tayo ng images from Google. So for example, gagawa kayo ng, yun nga, yung Google slide natin na presentation, and you would like to look for an image related to ICT. Now, the very first thing that you have to know, okay, halimbawa gusto ko to, is the image resolution. Is the image resolution big enough? Or baka naman pag dinownload ko siya, magiging stretch siya. The answer that is, before downloading this, hover your mouse dito and try to check the image resolution. In this case, the image resolution of this one is 1200 by 800 pixels. So therefore, I can just simply open this one and download that directly to my computer without losing its quality. So isa-save ko yan, then save image as. Diba? Ang nangyari kasi sa inyo, halimbawa ito okay na rin to eh. Pero meron yung mga low quality eh. Pag sinabi ko kasi low quality, usually nasa 300 pababa pagka sa mga slide. So 800 by 390, okay pa yan. Low res, kako lang. Low res. Hindi yan. Bakit Converge. Yan. Basically, makakita at makakakita kayo eh. So, you have to make sure to check the resolution, ha? Ayan. So, in this case, yan, those are the different resolutions that we have. Next is what we call display resolution. Magkaiba po ang display resolution sa image resolution. Kagaya rin ng display, nga naman, it's also measured in pixel. However, ang display resolution is the capability of graphic output. So, minimeasure niya ang monitor naman. So, it can be in a form of, meron yung 720p, and 1080p, 4K, 5K, and 8K na tinatawag. So, on your computer, pwede nyo makita kung ano yung graphic resolution na meron kayo. Pero the most common is actually 1080p. So, you can do that by right-clicking your desktop and go to display settings. Ayan. So, in my case, I have 3 monitors. So, ginagamit ko, my main monitor is ito. So, number 2. And the display resolution is here. 3440 by 1440, which is really wide. This is considered as what we call ultra wide monitors. Ito naman, this is the most common display resolution that we have, 1920 by 1080. Ito naman, this is my projector monitor. So kung gusto ko lang manood ng movie, it's still the same though. Yan. Ito, this is my main and my work monitor. Okay, so that's the difference between image and display resolution. Next, we have here what we call color resolution, in which is actually basically it simply describes the number of bits used to represent the color. So we have here the red, green, blue. Yan. Tapos yung eksaktong value ni red, green, blue ang tinatawag natin na color resolution. So each pixel can represent at least 2 possible colors or more. So color resolution or color depth channel is measured in bits. Now, we have the following color schemes. Red, green, blue, yung pinaka-common. It's associated with electronic displays such as ito, yung mga CRT. When we say CRT monitors, those are, kung natatandaan nyo yung mga monitor na malalaki yung likod, yun yan, mga cathode ray tube na tinatawag natin. CRT. LCD monitors as well. CMYK, used for color printing. Yan. So, kapag magpiprint ka ng tarpaulins, posters, CMYK po. Itong mga to, you can actually modify or manipulate the following color schemes directly sa Photoshop. Yan. Pero hindi kasi natin topic yun, saka na lang. HSB, hue, saturation, brightness. Yan. It monitors the display colors by emitting color dots, such as red, green, and blue. Now, YUV, simply, it's the basic color format used for composite color TV standards. And TSC, PAL, and SECAM. So, yan. Y represents the luminance or the brightness. So, the brighter the color, of course, magkakaroon na ng parang white. Di ba? U and V carry the chrominance or color information. So, ang advantage kasi ng YUV, ginagamit nga lang ito sa TV. Pero the advantage of this one is, it's the amount of data needed to define a television picture is greatly reduced. Kaya wag kayong magtaka, bakit kahit sinasabi nating HD ang mga napapanood natin dati sa ABS-CBN and GMA, hindi siya pa rin ganun ka HD pag kinumpare mo siya sa Netflix, 'di ba? So there is still a big difference between the resolution because of the colors na ginagamit nila. The disadvantage, many colors that appear on a computer display cannot be recreated on television. Nga naman. Okay? So, once we are trying to edit or process an image and or even manipulating them, it involves the most important steps. First, importing an image from your external device, manipulating that image, yan, and at the same time, giving an output to the result. And the result might be the image altered in some other way. And those are the three important steps in image processing. Next is what are the common graphic file formats na kailangan nating makita? Okay. So, we have at least five important graphic file formats. Number one is the most common, GIF. Lagi natin itong nagagamit. Graphics Interchange Format, which is an 8-bit pixel. Yan. Usually, siya yung mga mabababa ang quality or resolution. Pero, moving images kasi yan. So, ginagamit din karamihan sa mga moving images. Diba? So, for example, yung mga memes na gustong-gusto natin. Diba? Or, like, ICT, GIF. Yung mga moving na GIF. Yan, yung mga ganyan, mga moving yung mga yan eh. Yan, those are the GIF images, Graphics Interchange Format. Bitmap or BMP, it's the most common format containing pixel by pixel value, which is considered as one of the biggest, uh, it has the biggest file size of all the formats, by the way. Bitmap. Kasi nga, pixel by pixel value. Ginagamit usually ang bitmap for tarpaulins. Kasi mas kaya niyang makarry yan. Kabaliktaran naman ang JPEG, Joint Photographic Experts Group. Ang JPEG kasi, it's used for compression, meaning you have an image and when you added a file extension of JPEG on that one, you are compressing that image. So, it will still give you the same image pero with lesser pixels. Pero hindi siya halata. Yan. TIFF or Tagged Image File Format, it's used for exchanging documents between different applications and different computer platforms. Hindi siya masyadong gamitin pero common ito for designers and mga graphic designers. And lastly, which is actually the portable network graphics. Now, PNG, from the word itself, PNG, it can use all color depths and it supports more than 16.7 million colors. And this is considered as one of the most or the useful graphic file formats kapag ka gusto mong maghanap ng mga images with transparent backgrounds. PNG, tandaan nyo yan ha. Now, let me show you. Especially sa Google slide natin na activity nyo. So, kung gusto nyo maghanap ng mga logo or images na transparent, just simply type ICT logo, then type transparent or transparent. And you have to make sure na dina-download yung file dito is PNG. How to know if the logo is transparent? Yan, click on that. Usually, it belongs or it has this kind of checkered pattern. Pero take note, do not just simply right-click and save that. It will not work that way. Okay. Most of the time, it will not work that way. You have to click on that first. Tapos, usually, mahanap mo yung download PNG. Ito. Kasi once you downloaded the PNG, it will really give you, it will really give you a transparent, a transparent image comparing to this one. Ito kasi, yung una nating dinownload, teka, nag-open na ba? Oops. Ayan, yung una nating dinownload, take note, literal na na-download pati yung checkered niya. Diba? So, pagka ilalagay mo yun sa Google Slide, lahat ito masasama. Weirdo, diba? Pero pag dinownload natin siya ng legit download, ayan. See the difference between the two downloads? So, be very careful when downloading an image from the internet, especially if you're looking for a transparent and a non-transparent image. Alright, do you have any question? Alright, let's continue. Now let's talk about the navigational structures in multimedia design. So we also have four here, and it's very easy to understand. Number one is what we call the linear navigational structure, in which is only a sequence of step-by-step procedures. Usually, it's being used in slides and video presentation. So, nakikita nyo dito as a representation for linear structures. Yan. From, it usually go forward and backwards. So, ganun siya. Next is hierarchical, and it's based on the logic of the content. And usually, meron tayo ditong mga choices. So, if the user have chosen this track here, it will go here and will have different scenario after this. So that's hierarchical. Pero pag sinabi natin non-linear structures, it's a navigational or it's a navigation that is unbound by predetermined routes. So whatever choices that you have, it will always go to that particular predetermined route. Ito yung tawag natin. And lastly, composite. Composites are simply mixed structures in which the users may navigate freely but are occasionally constrained to linear presentations of movies or critical information and that are most logically organized in a hierarchy. So, ganyan. So, you have here the first, tapos either pupunta siya dito, tapos pa ganyan, either babalik, pupunta rin dito. So, it's simply a combination of the three of them. That's the navigational structures in multimedia design. Next is what we call the introduction to animation. Now, animation is actually very, very common sa lahat, 'di ba? Animation is the rapid display of sequence of images or artwork or model positions of frames in order to create an illusion of movement. And animation starts with independent pictures and puts them together to form illusion or of continuous motion. Just like take a look at this example here dito, yung very basic walk cycle animation natin. So it will simply create an illusion para sa atin na naglalakad siya. It's simply because it was being drawn frame by frame. So if you view a series of related still images in quick succession, your brain will now perceive that as a continuous motion. So para siya naglalakad. Diba? Pero in reality, it's simply a combination of those. In animation, we have what we call frame as as an image. So frames here, pag sinabi nating frames, this is one frame, two frames, three frames. So animators tend to actually draw each frames one by one hanggang makakreate sila ng motion na para talaga siyang gumagalaw. Diba? And movement is actually made up of many frames. Now, we have this phenomenon called persistence of vision, in which when we see, okay, an object is seen but the human eye remains chemically mapped on the eye's retina for a brief of time after viewing. Yun yung tinatawag natin na persistence of vision. Now, say for example, meron kang nakitang walk cycle. Ito. Imagine this is walking na, well, eventually, it will remain in your brain. Okay? For a brief of time, matatandaan mo pa yung animation na yan. 'Di ba? Persistence of vision. Kagaya rin ng pag nanonood tayo ng mga cartoons and animes, 'di ba? Ganun din ang nangyayari. The human mind needs to conceptually complete a perceived action, and that's what we call phi. And usually, the movies will run at 25 to 30 FPS, but computer animations can run to 12 to 15 FPS. Well, imagine, as an animator, you really have to draw each frame. So, kung frames per second ha, FPS, meaning frames per second. So, per second, they have to draw 12 to 15 or even 24. There are some animation studios who are using 24 frames per second. Kasi the lesser the FPS, of course, it will produce a jerky motion. Ngayon, yung pinaka-common na gumamit ng ganong technique is yung animation film ng Spider-Man. Let me show you. Spider-Man into the multiverse. And, I mean, into the Spider-Verse. Tapos tingnan natin yung GIF niya. Yung mga animation niya. Yeah, so it actually uses this kind of technique. Yung mga 12 to 15 lang na ano. Napansin nyo, nagmukha siyang parang jerky, pero mukha pa rin siyang smooth. Diba? That's the basic. And yeah, the frame rate measures the speed of the change frames per second. So that's animation. That's simply the basic concept of animation. Next here is what we call the sound and audio, introduction to sound and audio. Well, audio means the reproduction of sound, and it has, you know, different classes. When we say classes of sound, we have voice, which is what you are hearing right now. We also have music and sound effects. Sound effects are simply voice or music, pero usually kinikreate yan by thunderclap. Sound effects, yan, mga beatbox are considered as sound effects. We also have the properties of sound, in which number one, wavelength. Pag sinabi natin wavelength is the length of the wave. It's a distance between any point of a wave and the equivalent point on the next phase. The distance between repeating units of a wave pattern. Wavelength. Pag sinabi nating amplitude, the height of a wave when viewed as a graph. Ito. So the higher, and the higher the wavelength, meaning the more strength of the audio. So mas malakas, ibig sabihin, mas malakas yung boses. Ganyan. Yan. Higher amplitudes are interpreted as higher volume. Frequency, number of times the wavelength occurs in 1 second. So it usually measured in hertz or cycle per second. So the faster the sound source vibrates, the higher the frequency, yan, tataas yan, the higher the pitch itself. So example here is singing in a high-pitched voice forces the vocal cords to vibrate quickly. Sound in multimedia application, and number one, it captures attention. Napaka-importante kasi na sa lahat ng mga multimedia application na meron tayo, uh, sound will really play an important purpose because of course it captures attention. It increases the association the end user make with the information in their minds. It also adds an excitement, diba? Sa mga nakikinig. And examples of usage of sound in multimedia application are the following: BGM or background music, sound effects, voice-over or narrations, mga yan. So, actually, pwede nyo rin maging trabaho to later on sa future, voice-over or narration. Even paggawa ng mga background music if you are musically inclined, if you know the music theories behind that. So, you can do that. These are the most common audio file formats. We also have like six. Yan. We have six. Number one is M4A. It's an audio compressed file used in the modern setting due to increased quality demand as a result of cloud storage. Napaka-common na nito eh. Itong M4A, talagang ginagamit na siya ngayon. Dati MP3 lang, pero right now M4A na kasi especially in cloud storage, mas mabilis siyang mag-load talaga ang M4A. Next is FLAC or Free Lossless Audio Codec. It's an audio file compressed into a smaller size of the original file. It's a sophisticated file type that is lesser used among audiophile formats. MP3, yan, pinaka-common. Pero ang MP3 kasi, compression din siya. Kumbaga, siya yung may pinaka-compressed file naman. Waveform of the WAV, na tinatawag natin, the waveform, it stores, an image that demonstrates strength of volume and sound in specific parts of the wave file. WMA or Windows Media Audio. It's a Windows-based alternative to the more common and popular MP3 file type. AAC, Advanced Audio Coding. It delivers decently high-quality sound and is enhanced using advanced coding. So, itong mga itong AAC na to ito kasi ginagamit ko to kapag nag-edit ako ng mga presentation na videos. Nilalagay ko ang AAC. It has never been one of the most popular audio formats, especially when it comes to music files. Kasi nga, malaki ang AAC files comparing mo sa mga MP3 and itong mga WMA files. Alright, another content form here is video. Let me introduce what we call the video. Well, basically, when we say video, it's the way on how to electronically capture and record, process, store, transmit a sequence of still image representing scenes in motion. That alone is what we call video. And we have here two types of video signals. Number one, analog video, in which is transferred by, obviously, analog signals. It contains the brightness and the color of the image. Most TV na nakikita natin ngayon, lalo yung mga old TVs, they actually still send and receive video as an analog signals. Pero ngayon, we transition to digital videos na tinatawag natin. So, again, digital video is transferred by digital signal. And karamihan or kalimitan ginagamit talaga ang digital video. Especially since you can now automatically connect those devices directly to your computer. And yeah, it can easily be integrated with other media types such as your phones, mga ganyan, your smart TVs, your computers, and so on. We have the following characteristics of digital video. Number one is what we call the frame rate. Frame rate is actually the number of displayed or the number of images displayed within a specified amount of time to convey a sense of motion, just like in animation earlier. So, usually kasi sa mga movies, yan, meron ng mga 30 frames per second, 24 to 30 FPS. In gaming, the higher the frame rates, of course, the better because it's more fluid, mas makinis, 'di ba? Mas smooth lalo pag naglalaro ka ng mga Valorant and so on. Usually they are uh, measured in frames or frame rate, FPS ang tinatawag natin. Next is frame sizes and we have the VGA standards, yung mga typical na monitors. They only have 640 by 480. Pero ngayon, the higher, mas malaki na. The higher the pixels or the frame size, of course, the better viewing naman. So meron tayong 720p, 1080p, kagaya nung sa display resolution kanina. Next, the color depth or resolution. It refers to the number of colors displayed on the screen at one time. Now, these are the common video file formats that we have. Number one, MP4. It can store audio files, video files, and still image and text. Pero, uh, this is actually the most common kasi nga, high quality yung video at the same time, small file sizes siya. MP4. Pag MOV naman, it was developed by Apple, yung mga QuickTime players natin. It contains videos, audio, subtitles, time codecs, and other media types. WMV or the Windows Media Video naman is by Microsoft. So, para rin siyang MP4 with better compression nga lang. FLV is used for Adobe Flash Player before, pero hindi na masyado. Pero FLV is still being used in YouTube. Kasi ang FLV, mas maliit yung file size, mas madali siya i-process sa YouTube. Yan. AVI is the video format it actually use less compression, meaning mas malaki yung file size ng AVI. Yan. So, pagka nag-edit ka sa After Effects, usually kapag in-export mo siya as AVI, expect mo medyo mas matagal. Pero, it will really have a result of a high quality. Mga Blu-ray type na quality ng video. AVI yan. MKV, file format incorporates audio, video, and subtitle in a single file. Kagandahan ng MKV kasi, ginagamit din ito as the native support ng OBS recording. So, once you recorded using OBS, madali na siya. Automatic siyang, magkakaroon ng MKV files in which, pag inedit mo siya, you can have a two layers or a separate layers for videos and audio. So, those are the different common video file formats na meron tayo. Now, let's take a look at this. These are the common multimedia softwares and apps that we have as well. Now, you can click the following links if ever you want to use or if you want to look for some softwares and apps na gusto nyong gamitin for editing. So, for example, you would like to uh, download Wondershare, Filmora. Just simply click on that. However, may mga bayad yan, syempre. Pero you can try them for free if you want. And meron din tayong mga asan yun? Ito. We also have for audio editors. Yan. Audition, Ableton. Yan. For photo editors naman, we have Canva. Itong mga free na to Photopea, you can edit like Photoshop na rin. For file converters, basically if you want to convert your file into another file, you can use the following converters. Okay? So, those are just simply the introduction to multimedia in ICT. I hope you learned something today. Do you have any questions? Okay, so if we don't have any questions, you can go ahead and say goodbye. And so goodbye and see you next meeting.